And then we have one sort of bonus conversation on this new hot company called Drools, which we'll just talk. So if a lot of us in the ecosystem, both even observers of the hot pet care market in India right now, pets are the new children, as the one tagline went. So given that how much people are spending and substituting the need for sort of love, both giving and getting, to pets is taking off in India. Pet care seems to be a hot segment. Of course, the biggest boom of this came post-pandemic, if people noticed. And Heads Up for Tails got like a massive round at that point from peak, if you remember. And the trend line has continued, relatively unabated, where there's pet foods, there's, of course, commerce. It's baked into most commerce. I don't think there's anything standalone other than Heads Up for Tails, which has gotten funded. And of course, nobody is fully aware of what all is happening in the supply chain. There's a vet play that got, I think, or a pet care play that got funded recently, from what I hear. And in that realm of things, I'm not surprised that big plays unnoticed by the venture world were also happening, more private equity-ish in the way they were built out. And here emerged a company called Drools. Nestle is, of course, as you know, it's a giant, like a Swiss giant in food. And you might only know them from their chocolates and, their noodles and like some other foods. But what you fundamentally don't know is most of these conglomerates will have all categories. And clearly they had like a big pet food category play as well. So they've actually acquired Purina India in the past. And pet foods is estimated to be 5,000 crore plus, double-digit growth. And then Drools, as we've now learned a little bit more about them, 40,000 plus outlets in terms of distribution. Crazy. And 22 countries in their network to which they export. So when you look at something of that scale, then you can use the channels they've built to sell your own products. Maybe that's Nestle's thinking. Maybe it is, potentially taking their products into Nestle's network. It could be anything, but clearly this is not a M&A because the acquisition was single-digit percentage, but it's a big ticket. It's probably close to 100 million, and the post-money valuation therefore became $1 billion. And so here's a unknown, unheralded company from a venture perspective, but obviously super strong in its core sense, which has become a unicorn. And I think it's a signal to us that there's going to be a lot more action now. People are going to say, what other undiscovered gems are here? A lot of mid-market private equity guys might go and do full buyouts of these companies or do roll-ups. But it's an interesting dimension that nobody anticipated. So again, this must have been seen hyper growth. Somebody said, one report suggested over 50% growth in the last year. And prior to that, the reported numbers were close to 100 million, 700 plus crores. So clearly they've crossed the $100 million mark, maybe closer to the 1,000 crore plus right now. Not like raging profitability, but basically healthy net cash from the operations. And it had been backed by L Catterton in the past in June 2023. L Catterton is a spin-out fund from LVMH, which has become big. Now is trying to raise its first India fund and has the ex-Unilever CEO as one of the new partners for the India fund. So basically, they're also into consumer brands, clearly identified a star in this space. And Nestle has told publicly that it's classifying this as a purely financial investment, but I think they'll intend to collaborate on joint R&D, manufacturing, supply chain optimization, leverage, Nestle's global standards, and then export scaling, right? So Nestle is a global giant. Maybe Drools becomes a global play much faster thanks to this. So yeah, in summary, pet care is booming, one of the fastest growing segments in consumer retail today. Though the actual customer, the pet, actually doesn't buy anything, but there are humans who are buying for them, just like they do for their children. So that's why the equation with children. And then growing very fast, probably has, as I said, a lot of synergies in terms of integrations. And it makes it a very interesting company to look at very closely. Now, we don't know the founders, we don't know what their motivations are, but it's very possible that the founders are saying, it's good to have a strategic on the cap table, always builds optionality for later in case they want to increase their ownership or take them further global or acquire them all together. So all speculation, not commentary from me, because I don't know the company well enough. But this is how it is interesting when large strategic players buy into companies. It is a nice pathway to the future of what can be a solid M&A.